Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Today I just want to do a short video and talk about the Glock, the 25-cent trigger job, and the minus connector versus the stock connector, which is often called the dot connector. And I've got another video on our channel that I'll put a link in here of how to do this, how to actually fully disassemble the gun, replace the connectors, polish the parts. But today I just want to talk about what effect that actually has. It's not magic, it doesn't turn the trigger from a 10-pound trigger to a 2-pound trigger, but it does greatly smooth it out and lightens it up by roughly a pound and makes the trigger just a little sharper and more crisp feeling. So what I've got here on the table, I have this Glock 20, and this is chambered in 10mm, and I've got a Glock 21, and this one's chambered in 45 auto. The Glock 20 we've had for a while, and we've already done this. I've put the minus connector in it and polished it. And the Glock 21 is relatively new, and I have yet to do so. So the frame, the fire control groups, all of the components that would affect the trigger pull are identical in these guns. So I'm going to use these two guns to show you effectively the before and after, with this gun being the after and this gun being the before. And then I'm going to actually go afterwards, and I'm going to do those changes to this gun, take it out to the range, and shoot it. So to start with, I'm going to show you that each of the guns is unloaded. And I'm going to show you the connectors themselves. This connector here is the dot connector. This is the stock connector that comes with the Glock. And I'm going to turn it, and if you look on the back of the arm, it's going to be kind of hard to get it to focus on the camera, but if you look on the back of the arm, this upright right here, you'll see that there's a dot right there. Just it's like a pin punch stamped into it. That's the stock connector. And with this connector installed in a Glock, you get roughly the 5.5-pound, trigger that's advertised by Glock. The other connector that I've got, and this is a minus connector, and you'll see there's a very defined minus sign stamped into it. And this roughly reduces the trigger by a pound, so you end up with about a 4.5-pound trigger with this. And if you put the two side by side, I've got the dot connector on the left and the minus connector on the right. The primary difference is the angle of that top flat piece, and it's kind of hard to see it, but if I line them up like this, you'll see that this one is angled differently than this one, and it's that angle that affects the trigger pull and basically sets the weight. As the arm slides across that during the trigger pull sequence, that affects how much tension is there. So it's really not a huge difference between the two. And when you talk about the 25-cent trigger job, polished up, that same connector will be nice and shiny, almost a mirror shine, and it's very smooth. And if I were to put it next to one of the original ones, you can see the difference. And it's not really just cosmetic. This one here, if you rub across it, isn't as smooth as this one. So it's that smoothness when the parts are rubbing up against each other that make the difference in the feel, just the lack of grittiness and smoothness of the trigger. Now, over time of just using the gun and firing it, this part would polish up just from use. But the advantage to doing the polish job yourself is that you basically get instant gratification. It's instantly up to the point of having put hundreds or thousands of rounds through it, and you're ready to enjoy that consistency right away. And it's such an easy job to do that there's a lot of value in doing it, and you can do it yourself. The minus connectors cost roughly $25-ish to buy, because Glock won't sell them to you unless you have the serial number of a gun that actually came with them to begin with. So you're having to get them on the open market, and people that have them know what they are, but they're readily available. The original dot connector, you can buy them for like $3 a piece. Some of the Glock guns, like competition guns, the MOS series, come with the minus connector already in them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you with this Lyman trigger gauge. I'm going to show you the trigger on the one that's been polished and put the minus connector in, and the one that hasn't. And just note that the polishing itself really has a negligible effect on the trigger weight. It really just affects the feel and the smoothness. The connector is the thing that really changes the weight. Some people will then take it to the next step. They'll put lighter weight springs on the trigger and on the firing pin and things like that. Now you're actually getting into potentially affecting the reliability of the gun. Polishing it and replacing it with a minus connector will have absolutely zero effect on the reliability. So I'm going to start with the before image, which would be the 21, and I'm going to show you that. So we'll pick it up, cycle it, make sure it's cocked and ready to go, and we will measure. That time I came up with about 6 pounds. .86. 5.15. And 5.65. So the 6th one I probably hadn't gotten quite square on there. But if I look at the average, I come up with an average of 5.4. Real close to the advertised 5.5 pounds. From a trigger feel perspective, once you're off the take-up, because this really doesn't affect the take-up, it's not till you're on the sear, one of the things you'll notice with it, it's a very, very heavy define. I'm starting to increasingly put pressure on it, and that wall feels very, very solid, and then it breaks. It's a real short break. And then you've got the typical Glock reset, and then again that nice, that hard, sharp wall. So now I'm going to go ahead and do the polished version, the after. So we'll do the same thing. We'll pick this one up. We'll cycle it. Go ready. And we've got 4 pounds, 5.2 ounces. £4 pounds, 3 ounces. 4 pounds, 11 ounces that time. And 4 pounds, 15 ounces that time, for an average of 4 pounds, 8 ounces. So it's roughly 4.5 pounds, a little over 4.5 pounds with the minus connector. And from a trigger feel perspective, the take-up is roughly the same. But as I start to pull back, the wall is a lot smoother. There's much less resistance as I get up on the wall. I'm up on the wall there, and it's just a smooth pull. It does somewhat lengthen the wall. The wall's not quite as sharp and distinct. It's a little bit longer, but not enough that it affects the feel. But that smoothness is there and makes it just a lot nicer, overall smoother trigger pull. And the reset is actually a little bit shorter, and it'll be almost impossible to put these side by side to show it, but the reset's just a hair shorter with the minus connector. So overall, for $25 and a little bit of your time doing some polishing, you can greatly improve the trigger on the Glock, improve the overall feel of it, lighten it up a little bit. And one of the things you'll hear people talking about is, why do you have to do that? You buy a brand new gun, and all of a sudden you've got to do stuff with the trigger. Well, you don't have to do it. The stock trigger works fine. It's just as reliable. But the Glock is a mass-produced gun with mass-produced parts meant to be aimed at a large audience. Everything from law enforcement to competition to concealed carry to home defense. So they've set the trigger in the middle of the range. They've set it that out of the box it should basically appeal to everybody, or at least be usable by everybody. And then if you're wanting the competition, you're wanting to get in a little bit finer target shooting, you make some modifications to lighten the trigger up. Some law enforcement actually goes the other way. They have a plus connector that increases the weight. There's also the New York 1 and New York 2 triggers, which create effectively a 2-stage trigger and makes the trigger heavier and harder to pull. So it's all up to individual preference. So it's just one of the options available to you. So if you are interested in doing this yourself, I'll put the video in the link to the video in the description. Otherwise, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, and have a great day. Thank you.